All right, everybody. I'll do an update and then kind of let you in on the future of some of this. Things are not good. Last night I set a personal record for myself. I sheared off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I sheared off 10 head bolts, rounded off one. 2 of them came out, I won't say without a fight, but came out with threads intact. The one that rounded off, it's really rounded off. I've welded a lot of stuff to it, and it is not wanting to yield itself. So to be able to get to it better, I'm going to have to actually take off the hood and the gas tank. So to do that, and not to interrupt myself, but the valves were not stuck. They were, I unstuck them. But they're so crummy, my guess is, because it's still drawing a vacuum, it's got rings, I would say, and still making pressure, it's got rings. I don't think the valves are closing good enough to give us proper compression, because if I spray starter fluid in it right now with the intake and exhaust manifold open, it will shoot fire out the exhaust manifolds, but it will not continue running on the starter fluid, which means, and it's still sucking through the exhaust. I don't think, it's either got burnt or bad valves. They need to be lapped. So in the next few videos, they're going to be kind of split up. Some will be short, some will be long. Videos on unrelated to what I talked about earlier. One coming up is going to be how to remove a stuck head bolt, completely unrelated to what I mentioned earlier. But we're going to do a lot of tips and tricks videos because I don't know how far I'll get with this tractor. And truth be told, sometimes these projects are going to end this way. But you don't give up until it's over. Until you've done all you can. So, tonight I am, to get the gas tank and the hood off, there are 4 screws. They were flatheads. They were all completely stripped and rusted together. So here's kind of the steps of what's going on. This is the first in the series of tips and tricks, as well as the update at the beginning. So if you got a stuck flathead screw or even a Phillips head screw, Phillips heads actually kind of work better for this. There's a couple of ways of removing them. Probably the easiest is to angle grind it off, but because this is the gas tank, I'm not putting an angle grinder right here throwing sparks. That's our gas cap. It's a distributor cap. That's a drippy bowl full of gas. I'm not throwing a bunch of sparks right here because it was already not smart welding to that rounded off bolt. So what you do is you take a drill bit about the same size as the shaft of the screw, and you place it right in the middle, and you make you a divot. And it's going to take a few times of trying to get it right, but you drill it out until this happens. So now, see, that's actually separate now. So all you're basically doing is drilling it until the head of the screw is essentially a washer and it pops off. So that's the way you can remove flathead screws, Phillips head screws, any kind of screws that are completely and totally seized up and completely and totally stripped out. So I guess that's the first in my little tips and tricks series. But whether or not it's me that does it is becoming the question, because working and then coming home and working on this tractor is fun, but it's starting to get to where it's getting tough. Now, I'll probably get a second win once I get the head off and get all excited about, ooh, I can see inside the motor, but we'll see. I'm not giving up on her just yet. Not giving up on her. All right, hood's off. For our second tip and trick, I went ahead and started on it. So there's our head bolt, and I'm not going to touch it, that was stuck, right? And the head of it is 9/16, I believe, and would look something like that if it had came out properly. Well, this one sheared off too. That's one of the 10 that sheared off. You know, we don't have a lot to work with here, but what you can do is you can take a big old nut, last ditch effort. You do want to be careful because you can crack the head heating it up like this. But, cause see over here, ice cold. Over here, can't touch it. Over here, ice cold. That'll make them crack. But at this point, we are trying to save a runt motor. So we're doing the best we can. Also, I just wanted to point out something really neat I noticed. People were really sparing throughout the years when this was in use. There's newspaper here for the water outlet gasket. I think that's really cool. I mean, they just dealt with what they had, especially on the farm. But so you weld the nut up on top of this rounded off bolt or sheared off bolt, whichever one you're doing. You know, if it'll shear off above the head, you can thread a nut on there and weld it to it. Right now we are welding a nut to a rounded off head that is also kind of, for some reason, all the others sat flush with the head. This one was sunk, which I think is why I rounded it. Now, best case scenario we're hoping for here is for it to shear above the head. So let's shoot for shearing it above the head. And so I'm gonna get the biggest wrench I have and about a 10-foot long piece of pipe and put it on it and just make it wish it was never built. So I'll get back to you after I see if that works. Stay tuned. All right, so a long few hours later and a lot of really heinous, I would call it automotive sin if this was a car, but this is a tractor, so I guess a lot of agricultural sin. We are looking at the inside of the head. Now I've already blown it out with air, but what you can see here is all the valves, and I'll crank it over by hand for you, are traveling, and they were traveling. The Marvel Mystery did in fact unstick them like I thought it would, but there was so much carbon buildup in this motor. You can see I can scratch some of it off the piston. So there was so much carbon buildup that the valves were catching it in their seats and not actually seating, which is why we were getting some amount of fire but not enough to move the pistons. So I reckon while I have the head off, I might as well do a valve job, and I'm gonna clean all the carbon off of this. So I'll probably do a neat time lapse of that, but that's where we're at right now on this project. I don't know where my next video goes. Maybe tires, because Dad wants me to move this around some, so I may show you guys how to mount tires with nothing but big screwdrivers and losing some knuckle skin, but it'll grow back. It's good for you. And then another video will be removing stuck head bolts, ones that are below the head, ones that are above the head. I have a few methods for that, and we'll talk about that, but we got some cool stuff in store for you. Appreciate you guys watching.